Imagine walking out of the store and they're like, "Oh wait, by the way, like an extra 10% if you buy this," and it's
You
just
have
like
10 minutes. 9:59, 9:58.
it feels like
Like the little
yeah,
countdown timer.
it feels aggressive. Like it
I'm
feels
with you.
funny.
It's just not how you would treat somebody in person. I'm so with you.
We're back. It's week 2. A couple of things. First of all, we've been told by the editor that the audio is crispy, which is a huge win for two extremely tech savvy.
I
Yeah,
think our video is looking better too. Saw some of the clips and some of the TikToks we did. I think it's better. So I'm gonna pat ourselves on the back a little bit.
it's been a win. We have so a couple of things for this week. Testies, right? Talking about some things we're testing, some things we're looking into. Some hot topics like why does Eli absolutely hate shipping insurance, which I'm bound to get some exciting feedback on. Some Cody tweets or subtweets. A little bit
Been a
of
week. It's been a week.
a little bit of chaos this week. And then some fun ideas that we were thinking of, or Cody was thinking of. So I guess let's hop into it. Should we talk about testing number 1, what we're up to, what we're thinking about?
Yeah, is there anything we should probably thought about this that we talked about last week that we want to update people on? I think we talked about direct mail. Is that correct?
We talked about direct mail, which
So we
is
haven't tested that yet. Still working
still a
through
work in
it.
progress.
Giving feedback on the design, so that's going well. What else?
Replo landing pages.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. We actually just launched our first one. I made it. Pretty pumped about that. No, I mean, if anyone knows me, I cannot design my way out of a paper bag. So for me to be able to actually build a page and do it mostly myself was awesome. I used a template. I used a listicle template, but I guess I can kind of share my test. We've got this listicle, 5 reasons why. It's for what the foundation that we've, ran 7 figures through, and it's done really, really well. And we've tested a good amount on it, but I was like, why don't we just test a different designs? Same exact page, but just a different layout, different design. I mean, same layout in terms of like how things look, but how it's designed. It's the one that I tested is just super plain, still all of our branded fonts, still all of our photos, but just very plain, very simple. I saw the template in their library and was like, I just love the simplicity of this, the super easy UX. So I'm curious to see. I don't know if it'll perform better. I'm guessing a little bit better, but I'm curious to see.
We should have an update over the next week or 2 or 3 on that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, no statistical significance, but in a week or 2, definitely a little bit. And then what we're doing with Replo, we are also had our pages that were built out in Shopify developed in Replo. So kind of like Webflow. It's not like coding, but somebody kind of goes and builds them in there. So now we're going to be able to really just play around and test things super quickly. So they look exactly the same. It's actually pretty impressive. So now we'll be able to duplicate it. Like we are also for direct mail. I think we talked about last week, like we're doing a landing page where people, if they get there early, it'll be a vanity URL that redirects to it. And it was really cool because like we're working with our designer on it right now. And I don't even know if we have to build any new sections for it. Like we're able to just kind of build the page with what we've got and, put in all the content.
Gives us the ability to test more quicker, which is amazing. Before we hop into this week's tests, we mentioned this briefly last week, but Cody and I are doing a little something. So if you leave a review on our podcast over the next 2-3 weeks, we will be choosing somebody to give an hour of our time, talk about growth, talk about landing pages, talk about retention, CX, all the fun stuff, have some tendies. Yeah.
Try and get those reviews up. So trying to make it worthwhile. You had an hour of Eli's time together to chat through anything you would like.
All the stuff. Okay, let's hop into it. Down to Chat is brought to you by Peel, the analytics platform that we use in Levitt Jones Road. And I wanted to take a quick minute to talk about one of the workflows that I use on a day-to-day basis and love about Peel. Before I get started, if you're on YouTube or Spotify, you'll see me sharing a Loom. If you are on audio, I'll make it as audio friendly as I can. But let's get into it. So if you've been around for a minute, you may have heard me talk about our shade match program. And essentially the way it works is we have customers that reach out saying, hey, I love Miracle Balm. I'm not sure what shade to use. We have a quiz through Octane, but for people that are looking for a more personal experience or a more perfect experience, we offer shade matching through makeup artists on our CX team. And the question we wanted to answer is this worth it? We are spending a ton of time shade matching people one-to-one, and we wanted to make sure that it's making sense for us. So the beauty of Peel is you're able to analyze customers who are part of the shade match program that are tagged with a customer tag. So essentially we tag them as shade match in Shopify, and then you can hop in and look at the shade match. So you can look at the LTV, the repurchase rate, the refund rate, AOV, orders, sales for anyone with that specific tag. For example, you can see that our 3-month LTV of shade match versus non-shade match is 66% higher. 6-month is 79% higher. 12 months is 102% higher. So that it's basically a no-brainer for us to say, hey, let's continue doubling down on this shade match program. So much so that I can even dig into more granular analytics with Peel and say, these are the top products of customers that are tagged shade match. So they're reaching out for face pencil, for the Miracle Bomb, for What the Foundation, for lip tint. That's not something I would have expected off the top. And we can create audiences of people that are tagged as shade match who haven't bought a specific product. For example, they've bought Miracle Bomb and WTF, but not the mascara. And then I can hop into Klaviyo and create a message from the person that shade matched them saying, hey, we notice you've purchased Miracle Bomb and What the Foundation. Mascara is one of our customer favorites. You should definitely check it out. Or maybe figure out a way to upsell them to that product over a longer period of time, or just analyze the unique combinations of those customers. So if I wanted to dig into shade match and see where those customers are located, for example, are they only coastal? Are they in middle America? That can lead me to other strategic experiments about these folks. That's one of my favorite ways to think about Peel, as a way to kind of like build this audience and go along with customers over a longer period of time. The other kind of interesting thing that we do is we set up goals. And I know Cody chatted about this last episode, but we set up goals across departments. So for us on the retention side, Joanna and I have a goal to hit X percentage of revenue from email and SMS. We are not big into the attribution from in platform. So we connect Peel to GA and can say, okay, last click based on, over the last couple of days, we did 150K on email and 60K in SMS, and we're kind of 12% towards our goal to the end of the month, and continue kind of tracking that based on last month, based on previous rolling 7-day, etc. So this is just one of the, I guess these are two ways that I use Peel on a day-to-day basis on the retention side of things.
Yeah, one thing I think we wanted to chat about, one thing that's really front and center, is testing new channels, new growth things. So you had obviously this is more of a growth thing, so I'll take a little bit of it. I know we talked about direct mail for retention last week. Do you want to kind of just like steer me and ask me a few questions on it?
Yeah, I think the thought process. So how this started was we were talking about, Jones Road has done a good 8 figures this year, and as we kind of head into 23, we're thinking about, we've done the Facebook ads, we've done the TikTok ads, we're slowly stepping into direct mail. Like, what is the next couple of things we're testing in terms of new categories? And then, we can kind of go into more detail on how are we thinking about it? Why would we test it? How would we track it? All those fun stuff. But I guess to start, question I have for you is, it's such a huge world between out of home and CTV and billboard, all the fun stuff. How do we think about a new category?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I wrote a newsletter. I think it was probably in January, maybe December, which was 2022 growth plans, and talked about a lot of things I wanted to do and test. And it would be really interesting to look back at that and see. I think I was probably on the money about a lot of things. I think we tested creative a ton. We tested landing pages a ton. Huge unlocks. We had a lot of success with TikTok. We are getting on YouTube. I know I talked about those, but I'm sure there's some stuff that I was totally wrong about. I mean, even for example, TikTok, like, it was huge for us. We were spending really good money there, and we've brought that down. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just kind of not we're getting better efficiency other places. So I think that'll be interesting. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Like, I don't know, we're testing things. We're trying to make the most informed decision that we can about which channels are going to work. But ultimately, we just got to fuck around and find out. We just got to
This
test
is
these
my
different
slogan.
things.
This
I
is my
know.
slogan.
I
Fuck around and
just
find out.
so by the way, I do this. Like I steal pile my wife's like sayings all the time. Like she'll call our daughter stuff or she'll say something. And I'm terrible. Like I call them tendies now.
Amazing.
Terrible
Iconic.
at it. So I think what the reason why it's not like we're trying to diversify and get off Facebook. Like we're gonna spend double next year what we're spending this year on Facebook. It's more of how do we make our Facebook ads work better, and how do we, I don't want to say not become reliant on there, but I think what happens is, if you're running a conversion optimized ad on Facebook, you're really only going after kind of middle and bottom funnel. And I think to get to the size and scale that we're trying to get to, you have to expand that funnel and go upstream. So I think there are just better avenues for that we'll get into.
So we think about out of home. We think about, agile, using trucks.
I'm so excited. That's probably what I'm most excited about.
Just finding Jones Road all over the trucks. I think there's so much of this that to me is
Do you want to explain what it is? Like, there's probably people listening that don't know.
The idea is basically that people have ads everywhere, and with out of home, it's become increasingly difficult to track efficiency or metrics. But essentially, agile is taking trucks that are just driving around town delivering milk and what have you, and using it to plaster D2C ads on it. So for example, Magic Spoon and Gia and some others, and they are somehow tracking the users in their geo targeting around that area of the truck and tracking people that are going to the website from those areas around the truck. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's fair. So they essentially have these trucks that I guess are on road. Is there anything in the trucks or not? Or it's all literally just an ad?
They are. They're being used for. I think they're being used for regular deliveries and being driven around town.
But what I've heard, I guss I did a small study. It's like people don't think that these are just ads on trucks. Like they think it's a Jones Road beauty truck. That like just for kind of whatever we're doing. And I think they either have it in the truck or they have another truck that follows it. Somehow, I explain this terribly because everyone is like, this is so illegal. And from my understanding, it's not at all, or else they wouldn't be in business. But they can pick up people's device IDs. So your phone has a device ID. They can pick up people's device IDs. They can, create a list of that and create a segment of that. You can either then retarget them online if you want to, but also that really helps for matching. They can measure incrementality. They have kind of methods to do that as well. But again, it's an awareness play, and with any out of home, it's going to be more difficult to track than a Facebook ad. But they're really trying. So agile, I'm pumped about. What else are we thinking? I mean, I think YouTube is a big one. We're currently doing a geo lift test, so we're running it harder in certain cities than not because it's a little bit harder to track. We're able to track a lot of it in North Bean, but a lot of it is view based and it's not as easy. So that would be one. Really, then the next one up funnel from there would be television. I don't know what you watch. I don't know. Do you watch TV?
I have not turned on the TV in 6 months.
That's funny.
At least.
So I watch like YouTube TV, right? So like, pretty much Hulu, like the streaming stuff, like all that stuff. And it's crazy the infiltration of direct to consumer ads. They're all on there. Like you name them, any kind of well-known
so
brand,
we did that at Olipop. We ran CTV, Connected TV, which is like the Hulus of the universe. And we've run some, we had like an anti-Pepsi ad that was running on there, in a similar style to one of their ads and made by the same agency. We've done some cool stuff. And the struggle with CTV is, I think it's twofold, and there are probably brand marketers that can talk about this on a deeper level. But the play is usually, like you said, a little higher up the funnel, and it's usually a brand awareness play versus like a direct conversion play. But also,
there are definitely some
direct response, yeah. But it could also take time. Like we've on the reporting side from CTV, like they were reporting every other month or something crazy like that. So like it was taking a while to actually see if it works, and you'd spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on the ads before finding out how well it's working. So you can obviously you can use codes, and you can kind of like we spoke about last week on the podcast circuit, where you can like leverage, use code X, use code TV, which is what you see even on like legacy television, when you have those crazies on the My Pillow ads, like they're always use code whatever, right? So there's definitely this old school tracking thing that's going on,
Which
but I
I
think
forget if we
it's
talked about. I forget if
yeah.
we talked about it last week, but that's definitely the difficulty for us. I mean, if anybody has any ideas, I've certainly got some. But we don't like to discount. We don't have a discount in our welcome flow. We
Hmm.
don't discount for Black Friday. So it's like it makes it harder. All of these kind of non-click based stuff, even if you're talking about
Hmm.
influencer, paid shout outs and stuff like that, it makes it harder. I'm not saying it's not doable and people find ways to do it. I think you can be creative, but that's definitely one thing to keep in mind for us.
Yeah, and theoretically, Cody, if you ran, you go out of home with a truck, agile is easier to track, but let's say you go old school, you take a billboard and you don't have a code. How do obviously there's the brand play, and over
Mm-hmm.
time it increases efficiency on your Facebook ads because it's a less cold
Mm-hmm.
audience and that whole, brand market or storybook. But is there a way to track, billboards without a
Yeah,
discount code at
it's
all?
mostly geo lift. So
Mm-hmm.
what you would do is you would just run them in certain locations, and
Uh-huh.
you can get very simple. And this is essentially what we're doing for YouTube. You keep everything else the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else the same except one variable. You pick cities. You're going to look at that, and then you can look at pretty much every KPI metric you want to. So obviously you look at revenue. The best way to do it, you do uh, 4 weeks before running anything, get a baseline of everything, run it for whatever period, 4 weeks, and then look at 4 weeks afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of simple because especially these things that you're talking about are upper funnel. It kind of takes some time, like a podcast. People don't buy right away. And then you can see whatever lift and say, all right, nationwide. And the reason that you have to do this, you have to run things concurrently at the same time so that you are accounting for as many factors as you want. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I did 2 weeks, no billboards, 2 weeks, billboards everywhere the same, it's like, well, if we went up, was it because other stuff changed?
Right.
Was it
There
because
can be
we just
many
ran the
variables.
billboards during Black Friday?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And then what you can do as you get more complicated, and this is like big brands, big budgets, is you'll run multiple. So it's like, all right, when we've run just Facebook ads, here's our result. When we run Facebook and YouTube, here's what we get. When we run Facebook and YouTube and direct mail, here's our lift. And you can kind of see like what combinations make the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Again, most people are not going to have to do that. I don't even think we have to get there yet. But geo lift would be the standard one. A lot of if you're in retail, right? I think I've heard people talk about this from Olipop and whatnot. Is like you can kind of see and look at
Mm-hmm.
sales velocity at your retailers.
Yeah, yeah, that was always interesting to see a lot of. I mean, you're seeing it more and more D2C brands that launch in retail. Well, like we did one with, we were talking about doing one with Honey Mamas, like doing a joint billboard where like, we put both of them in a photo and it makes it half the price, and you can kind of track
Yeah,
velocities
smart.
based on regions. Like a billboard in Williamsburg is super expensive, but if you
Hmm.
split it halfway, like collabing on that kind of stuff. But I think with retail, it's pretty straightforward. Like if you have a billboard right near Whole Foods and you run it for 4 weeks, if you see velocities,
Yeah,
increase. But again, it's like looking at the rest of the country. Did your velocities increase everywhere because you had a good month online? So I think
exactly. That's what. Yeah, you just
there's
got
so
to
many
set it up
variables.
correctly, like that.
Yeah.
So those are the main ones. You can look at traffic. Like for example, I've read in like the Allbirds S1, like they see increased website traffic around places where they have their physical stores. So
Hmm.
you know that's
Interesting.
kind of what, again, and you have to think about what stage in the funnel you're going for. And everyone wants to see revenue, but you probably have to start looking at traffic and
Hmm.
search volume because that's going to be. So we're also doing out of home. We're doing our first out of home actually this quarter. We're doing guerrilla wild postings. You know what those are?
I don't.
Those are just like those like posters that are apparently it's illegal. I guess that's why they call it guerrilla.
Love
That's
it.
just like around like buildings and like in New York, pretty much.
I feel like I
It's
saw
just kind of like
Huron,
super
like the
flimsy.
skincare brand. I saw one of theirs.
Oh, did they? Oh, I gotta reach out to Matt and see.
I think they did it. And I know Nugs used to do that kind of stuff. It's just like a poster, like
Yeah,
on a
like super
wall. Yeah.
flimsy. So we're
Yeah.
running it for 4 weeks this quarter.
In Brooklyn.
I think we'll do Williamsburg and somewhere in Manhattan. Just kind of trying to
Love it.
figure out where. So that'll be another one. Again, we'll put a vanity URL.
Mm-hmm.
So jonesroadbeauty.com/whatever, and you can kind of look at what you do. You redirect that to a UTM.
Mm-hmm.
parameter, and then you can kind of see in Google Analytics, okay, we had this many sessions,
Right.
but again, it doesn't tell you everything because most people aren't going to use it. Some people do QR codes. I've heard mixed things. It's really all of those things. You're not looking, like, even when you run Facebook ads, I don't believe in single source of truth. Like, I'm looking at a lot of different things to inform decisions. When you do this stuff, it's like so much more critical that you're really taking everything into consideration rather than just like, this is what we spend, this was our return on ad spend.
And then final question, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But what informs you when it's time to, like, okay, let's fuck around and test the next thing? Is it a bandwidth question? Is it a, like, what, I guess twofold. Number one, what kind of unlocks the next thing we test, but also B, what is there a list of priority in terms of what you want to test next and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely bandwidth. Definitely, do we have the team to be able to do it? Whether that's creative, because again, like creative for a television ad is a lot different than creative for a TikTok video,
right?
Or a Facebook ad. Do we have the ability to measure it? Do we have the team to be able to think strategically through it and kind of manage, the process? Because, as we grow, I can't be the only one kind of managing, everything. And then have we gotten everything that we can out of all of the cheaper and easier methods to do? Like, for example, and I'm realizing this about myself, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So, like, I never think it's time to move on to the next one because, like, I think we can still do influencer better. I think we can still do social better, But I think that's the hard part for me, at least, is like, how much do we work on continuing to optimize what we have now versus how much do we say, you know what, we squeezed 95% out of that we can. Let's go and test this new thing.
I think from now on, I'm changing your name to Cody Segway Plofker because that was a perfect segue into our next topic.
I didn't
balancing scale versus optimization.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And again, this is just like an ongoing kind of thing that it's like a push and pull and tug of war. But, for example, and right now I'm looking at kind of year to date and trying to plan for next year. It's like, what's going to be the unlocks that's going to get us there, and I think you just have to understand, what's going to drive my growth, and am I trying to scale by just doing more, or am I trying to kind of improve things that I
doing
that
better?
I have? Yeah. And it's just like push and pull because you have to. It's like if I get my average order value up 10%, that allows me then to go and test new channels that I wouldn't be. If I have a $55 average order value, like, I can only run Facebook so well. I'm definitely not going to work on YouTube. I'm not going to work on direct mail. So it's kind of like, again, like just this kind of like push and pull back and forth. But the other thing is, as your volume increases, as you scale, things are going to break. Your CAC is going to go up, your conversion rates are going to go down. So I do think, like, you always have to be optimizing, improving, trying to make your stuff work better. But I also think you have to be pushing volume and trying to scale that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it's interesting that, I think most brands are convinced that, in order to do double the revenue, I just have to spend double on ads. And I don't think that's the case once you hit a certain number. I think once you get to a certain point, you, like you're saying, have to start doing other things and more things, and not just the same, but double the spend on it.
What are going to be the things that are going to allow me to spend double on ads? Is it getting my average order value up? Is it getting my conversion rate better? Is it getting a better CX experience so that, I have positive word of mouth and happy people leaving comments on ads instead of negative? Like, all that stuff that's going to allow you to scale, and not just, this is what I'm at now, I can double my budget. It's like, it doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, that's spot on. The other thing to think about, and we should probably do a full episode on this, is creative ways to increase AOV without just making it like, you need to spend $100 for free shipping, but like ways to think strategically. I think we've done
that'd be a good one.
Yeah, we've done a really, when I say we, a lot of it is you behind this, but
no, that's not true.
Yeah, but we've done a really, really good job at thinking strategically around kits and bundles and sets, and just like getting getting strategic around products that go well together. And it just unlocks, I think people really underestimate, me coming from brands that were in the food and beverage space, and AOV was 35 or 46 or 52, and coming into beauty where it's above 100, it's just like it unlocks, like you have margins on shipping that you didn't have before. You have margins on acquisition that you didn't have before. I think it just unlocks a whole.
I was thinking about it
universe.
today. I was thinking about it like at the volume we're at, like what additional revenue that increase would be if we get our average order value up like 10%.
It's crazy.
There's some stuff that we haven't done and we haven't tested that I really want to test, and I don't think it's going to get up 10%, but if we did, like that would be big. I was thinking about this, right? Because like one thing is like a lot of people will do, and we'll definitely do a whole episode or at least a segment next time on AOV. But one kind of quick thing, like most people are kind of upselling, bundling, like those are common things. Everyone now has, frequently brought together. They have, free shipping thresholds. Like they have in-cart upsells. More people are doing in-checkout upsells. And I was thinking about it. I was really resistant to do in-checkout upsells for a while. I just don't want to just be that brand that's just constantly upselling. But I'm like, we have no problem with them in the cart. Like, what is the difference? Like, I don't love. How do you feel about post-purchase upsells? Because I don't absolutely love them.
The way I think about most of this, and this is, again, the different than the average growth thought process. This is more like the CX thought process, but I try to compare it to like an in-store shopping experience.
That was
where
literally
it's like,
what I was going to say.
Yeah, like
so
imagine
I must
walking
have heard you
through.
Say that or something.
Maybe, I don't know, but imagine like walking through a store. In TJ Maxx, where like walking to checkout, there's like a bunch of
before it, you're like, oh shit, like this is great, this is convenient, like I'm gonna.
And that makes sense. Imagine walking out of the store and they're like, oh wait, by the way, like an extra 10% if you buy this. And it's
you
just
have
like
10 minutes. 9:59, 9:58.
It feels like,
like the little countdown timer.
Yeah, it feels aggressive. Like it feels funny, and it's just like one of those things.
I'm so
it's one of those things that work, but it's like I don't know.
I know, like part of the me is like, man, it works so well. Like imagine if you offer something that people want that you don't do other time. Like Moise Ali did like mini native deodorants. And, he said that put so much margin on their bottom line because it's like it's cheap to ship and whatever. Like imagine if we did mini Miracle Balm and that's the only time you could get them. I won't. I don't want to.
I'm happy you said that in public on the podcast. Yeah. He won't, but I mean, it would crush. And it's like the scarcity and the limited time and the like. We've, as a collective society, gotten really, really, really good at tricking humans into spending more money. Like we've gotten really good, and I know this is going to be clipped and it'll be a fun little snippet. But I think we've just gotten really, really good at tricking people into spend more money today. But we struggle into thinking for more than 3 seconds about like, does this make sense over a long period of time? Will they hate the brand more or like the brand more? And it's one of those hacks. Like there are quite a few, and we'll get into shipping insurance in a minute as a hack. Okay. But
last thing, definitely another way to increase AOV, and one that I'm excited about. I think you are as well, because I think it fits in really nicely with us, is gift with purchase. We want to run, and at least I do, an evergreen kind of Facebook ad funnel. Probably do our influencer programs like this as well. With a mini mascara, we had a bunch of our mini mascaras made.
I've been dreaming about this.
I'm so excited. So I'll share why I like it. Why do you like it? Why do you care? As a retention director, why do you care about what our Facebook ad funnel is?
I think that the genius behind, I guess the difference between buying online and buying in store is buying in store, you have this more in-depth experience where you can touch and feel things and try new things. Whereas buying online, it's like, if I'm sold on a Miracle Balm, it's really, really difficult to get me sold on a completely different SKU category. And I think when you get people in on a mini, it helps for so many things. Like a gift with purchase makes people feel good about your brand. Like, wow, they're generous, they're nice, they're sweet. Not many people are thinking like, oh, these fuckers, they're trying to get me obsessed with a new product. As an aside, the reason why I'm excited from a CX perspective is mascara is one of our best rated products. Like it's very rare to have people have a problem with it. And it's just like giving people the experience. Miracle Balm is a little bit more difficult, right? So even if they don't absolutely love a Miracle Balm, knowing that they'll have a product they love with us, and they'll be like, oh, this might not have worked for me, but can I swap it for a mascara? It just, when we think about brands,
Yeah, let me come back
will
to
they
the mascara.
that'll keep them around. So it just eliminates so much risk. And
Also,
yeah.
there's so many things. So our margins are great on mascara. Our LTV is great. However, one of the negatives is it doesn't do as well acquisition wise because everyone's got a mascara. It's hard to differentiate as much versus Miracle Balm or What the Foundation are much more differentiated. So we can kind of get attention with the Miracle Balm, but help to convert them with the mascara and hopefully retain them with mascara. Also, talking about what we talked about last episode, putting subscription on the mascara is another way. The mini also, they're going to go through it quickly. So if they do like it, instead of waiting 60 days to purchase the Miracle Balm again, because it takes a while to get through, now they're like, oh, 2 weeks, I used it, I love that, let me get it.
And if they do get it, they're not going to do the $26 mascara. They'll probably order a mascara as part of a kit or a set or buy other things as well. Like I don't think it'll be just the mascara. I mean, I think all
there's
around
a lot to love.
Of any of the products that we have that I think about, like I was chatting with Joanne, who, if you haven't heard her on the podcast last season, she's
the people on all things. Been asking.
Yeah, on all things email, SMS retention. We were talking about that today as far as
maybe we'll let her out after Black Friday.
No, I mean, Joanne is incredible. And when we were talking about thinking about category basket analysis and just looking like people that buy X love Y, and it's like, how can we use that as a cross-sell opportunity? But I think it's almost anyone that buys mascara is a super fan of our brand, and it's like, how can we get that in people's hands without being aggressive about it and without them even having to decide to choose it? Because mascara is one of those things, once you're obsessed with a mascara, you usually stick around with the same brand. It's not like other like lipstick where people kind of like, I love that I'm saying this as if I know what I'm talking about, but this is just anecdotally what I hear.
Yeah, we're just two dudes on a podcast talking about makeup.
Talking about makeup. But what I hear anecdotally from people near me and around me that use makeup, they say that once they find a mascara they love, they stick with it. And it's one of those that are used almost every day. And I've been waiting. I remember talking about this week one when I joined. I was in the office. We were at the Jones Road flagship in Montclair, and you and I were talking about this. 7 months later, it's happening, and it'll be fun.
I think it'll crush. The reason I love it, so like Athletic Greens runs for all their affiliate
travel
programs. Yeah, they do. They either do a travel pack or a free 1 year supply of vitamin D. And again, it doesn't feel like you're getting anything for free. It doesn't feel like a discount. It probably doesn't convert as well as a discount, but I do think it converts above the norm of just selling the product. So I think it's just a very like on brand, value added way to do it. I think it might improve AOV if it's above a threshold, if we want to test it that way. So yeah, don't want to beat a dead horse on this one, but I'm really excited about it. So that'll be a test, but we won't be starting it next week, so stay tuned.
And so next week we'll probably talk about AOV, when we'll talk about the other thing that I want to talk about as well. Is like, this is a question for me, can you over optimize? Like, can you over optimize a site? Can you and I guess that kind of like loops back on our question around like post-purchase upsells. Like, can you like buy this and you'll get, 6 free gifts and thresholds? And like, can you get too complex and too complicated in a customer journey? Which I think will be a fun thing to riff on.
Speaking of customer journey, how's that segue?
That's fantastic.
You don't get mad that often. You're a nice guy. People know you as a nice guy, but occasionally you do. Usually,
nice guy.
It's either when you're being a Karen and you've had a bad experience with a brand,
spot on,
or when you don't like how brands are treating their customers. Is that fair?
That's very fair.
So I hear that you have some controversial thoughts and have gotten into some debates on Twitter about shipping insurance. Is that true?
Oh God.
Guilty you hate shipping insurance. All right, I want to hear it. I don't really have an opinion on it, so I kind of want to hear you go off.
My current hill I'm dying on with shipping insurance is it's not a consumer behavior that consumers are privy to or used to. I think about buying in a store. You walk in, you take the product, you go home. When you buy a product direct to consumer, you are paying for the product plus the shipping to get it to your house. And whether they bring it on a plane, train, horse, carrier pigeon, you expect to get it to you. And there we can hop into detail on the perks of not outsourcing your where's my order questions and concerns, and the brand value that you can derive from doing that yourself and not outsourcing that to an indemnity insurance company. Putting that aside, I think that consumers have an expectation that if they pay for a product, it should get to them. I kind of like think about this as, imagine I ordered food from a restaurant.
You're saying it's table stakes? You're saying it should just be, if it doesn't get to them, like if they order, the expectation is 100%. It gets to them, you shouldn't make them pay extra.
Imagine you order wings from De Novo, your favorite spot, and they say, Cody, if you want this to get to you, here's $2 shipping insurance. It'll get to you in one piece. If not, we give you a full refund.
But that's so different. I get your point. I'm thinking, so, okay, you're thinking like takeout, not order them there.
Takeout.
So
no,
of
course.
Not being shipped. It's just
I'm talking about delivery. I'm talking about somebody delivering it to you.
Yeah, but there's a difference between delivery from a spot that's 10 minutes away versus.
But why? I mean, I understand why.
Wrong in that time.
I understand why from a logical brand perspective on pen and paper, but I'm saying from a customer. So my problem is like, I think that there's plenty of reasons why brands should be absolved of X, Y, and Z. I think where consumer behavior is at the moment, the expectation, if you ask 9 out of 10 customers, they'll say the expectation is that it should get to their door, and they shouldn't be on the hook if it doesn't. So that's really the question.
What about when you buy a new computer or a TV at Best Buy and they ask you if you want, insurance on that if something goes wrong, or AppleCare? What about AppleCare? The
so I think once a product
computer works.
Well, once a product is in your house, if it doesn't, so AppleCare, the idea with AppleCare, if you buy a product, you have a 1-year warranty. AppleCare is if you drop it, if you do something stupid, that's 1,000% under your wheelhouse. AppleCare will take care of your scratches, right? If I buy a watch, I expect it to get to my door. If I want to get additional insurance in case it gets lost or stolen 6 months later, that's on me. I think the expectation where consumers are at, and if you talk to 10 people, I imagine at least 9 will say this, is if I buy something online, I expect it to get to my door. And then more than that, and there are kind of edge cases, right? If you book a flight tomorrow, you can pay for baggage insurance, right? Why am I paying for baggage insurance? If you lose it, shouldn't, there are edge cases. And I think the difference with baggage insurance is over time, consumers have gotten more privy to like, oh, so you do fucking lose it all the time. Do I want to pay to not deal with the headache? And I think that's the direction where we might be going to over time, where, the providers in the space are like, oh, customers might start freaking out and be willing to pay to not have to deal with the stress. But that's kind of, in my opinion, preying on consumers' fear of not getting their product to their door in time.
And it's really, if brands were already doing it, and they should have already been doing this, and they're offering it, and now they're kind of saying, hey, pay me more to do this same service that I've been doing, it doesn't feel super ethical to me. Is that kind of how you feel?
That's part of it. I think it's just not it's one of those things that it's like, oh, and here you can pay more and we'll wrap your package twice. Or, like you should have wrapped it the right way the first time. I think it's just, we are preying on the fear of consumers of, the other thing is like, if you choose this, and it's also like the wording on most of these sites, it's like,
sure,
if you uncheck this, we are not held accountable for X, Y, and Z. Legally, that's probably false. I've seen a streetwear website put on their thing, like, once it leaves our warehouse, it's not under our responsibility. And I'm like, legally, I don't know if that holds true, but I'm glad you put it on your site. But, I think that the ultimate weirdness is like, this is a way to get your issue resolved quicker, which is essentially implying that if you don't choose insurance, will be a pain in your ass until you get your refund, right?
Yeah, which is terrible. Okay, that's fair.
Which
that's
is
fair.
The funny part is like,
you don't have to do it that way. Brands don't have to do it that way.
Right. So I think that my two thoughts of like, if you did shipping insurance, here's how you can do it correctly. Number one, not default it to on, right?
I agree with that. Okay. Do most brands default it to on or not?
I think through the largest provider of this, I don't want to drag them, but as an insurance company, part of their rules, when I spoke to them at Olipop, was it had to be defaulted to on. That may have changed.
Oh, really? That's the route that they take?
Well done. I think I've seen most of them default to on. There are some brands that I've seen recently that aren't defaulted to on, and it
Let me
depends on the
ask you
wording.
this. Do you, when you shop at a website, I know you're a big Mad Happy guy. I don't know if they have it
Yeah,
or if they don't. Other brands that you shop at and they have it, do you get shipping insurance or not?
absolutely not.
No.
I've never paid for shipping insurance in my life.
What about the carbon neutral order? Do you do that?
That gets me equally frustrated. Like, it's like, figure it out. Like, I'll donate to a God knows what. Like, I don't know that I should be like guilted into saving the environment
Yeah,
from your
I think
website.
to me these feel like ways to just increase margin by companies.
But like, maybe increase margin by creating a strategy that drives AOV, or like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I just
learn
like,
how to sell without discounting.
yeah. I think figure other things out, like giving 40% off, but then mandatory shipping insurance, or like auto defaulting. So what I was saying, two things. If you do these two things, I think it could make sense in a weird universe. Like, there are brands that I think of, like, if they sell really expensive things or really heavy things and it's super expensive for them to do it. I've seen brands that say, we cover shipping insurance. I think Super Coffee did this at a time, that
Okay.
they cover the shipping insurance.
Well, what about, isn't that what Feastables did? Didn't I see somebody talk about that or why they do it?
So Feastables does it because they are super busy at the moment, and they wanted the help of, from my understanding, wanted the help of, as a temporary fix, wanted the help of this provider to help them kind of tackle the lost and damaged
God, okay,
orders.
here. Oh, I thought it was because of what they're selling. If it melts a little bit, like it kind of like, I guess what same principles as what you're saying. Like certain categories, you're gonna just have more issues with.
Yeah, I think if you do it and you don't default it to on, or you cover it, or you cover, either if a brand covers it, I think it makes sense, if it makes sense for you as a brand to pay for it. But if you drive that cost to the customer, I think not defaulting it to on, and also in the wording saying, this will make it easier, or this will make it, like, not saying we won't help you if you kind of get screwed, because I think that's using fair to drive people to give you
Sure,
more money.
that's like the pop up that's saying like, no, I hate discounts.
Iconic. That's where e-commerce
Yeah,
started taking a turn towards, like, this is ridiculous.
yeah,
Spin the
just
wheel.
cringe.
Do you hate discounts?
Spin to win. Okay, that's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, is there any world where you think it could actually be a better customer experience? Because what if it like decreases the anxiety that a customer might have? This is super theoretical, but if I buy something and I buy a computer online or whatever it is,
Yeah.
I'm like I'm a little anxious because I don't know if it's going to get to me, or if I buy last crumb and I don't know if it's going to be like just crumbs by the time it gets to me. Like there are things I might pay $1 for, and it might help me enjoy my purchase a little bit more.
The ironic part of this is that I've spoken to customers that have paid extra for the shipping insurance, and it was a pretty mediocre experience. Like, it took them 6 days to like give proof and all that. Like, I think that some brands can actually provide a better experience than the shipping insurance will be. I think shipping insurance is more generally, as for the brand, as a way to, like, the way it's pitched is like, you'll save hundreds of where's my order requests, because now they come directly to the
Oh, see, I
third
didn't know
party.
all that. I didn't know that.
And then it's like, you'll gain margin and you won't have to pay for reshipping. And brands that lose their stuff often, like, it's a lot of money to save. I think if it's a super, like, you're theoretical, a laptop, another theoretical, furniture, another theoretical, jewelry, like, is it worth paying for insured the same way UPS charges to insure a package, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an option, and I think if your customers are excited about it, it's worth going there. My only argument is, I think that consumer behavior is not there yet, and I think it comes across to most customers as, this is ridiculous. And if you talk to brands, they'll be like, well, 80% of our customers choose it, and you're like, no kidding, because if you say, if they don't, you won't take care of them. So it's tricky, and
That's fair. Okay, make a lot of
yeah,
points. I didn't know that they took care of all of the where's my order. I didn't know that. How
that's
do you
kind
feel about
of,
brands just like doing their own? I've seen that a lot where they kind of are just doing their own thing and not going through with those companies, and it's
I think
just kind of
it's
like,
I think it's basically upselling something that you would be doing for free,
yeah,
hopefully. So it's a way to make extra money. I think that a lot of the things brands do can be a little funky. There are some of these things that it's like, I'm very happy for brands to do it and do it well if their customers are okay with it. A lot of the arguments that I make online or that I talk to is like things that to me feel really odd and bizarre, but maybe customers have no problem with it and they choose it because they love the idea of reaching out to a third party or to whoever and say like, I paid for the insurance, fix my shit.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I got no opinion, so I was just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit. I
Yeah.
think there's probably probably a way to do it correctly and a way not to. For most D2C brands, peak season in Q4 is the most important part of the year. You need to understand what your shoppers are going to do. Tapcart recently conducted a survey with 1,155 mobile shoppers to give you the insights you need to nail peak season this year. The most interesting aspect for me is around push notifications. I didn't know you could use rich media with push notifications. They're basically a full screen ad you can send for free. They are unlimited with Tapcart.
Yeah, and shoppers respond really well to them compared to other channels. The survey evaluated what drove direct response purchases among consumers during peak season, and the data showed that push notifications outperformed email by 177%, digital ads by 159%, and SMS by 78%.
Honestly, that's crazy, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Visit tapcart.com/BFCM, tapcart.com/BFCM to arm yourself with other great insights to help you execute this peak season. Again, that's tapcart.com/BFCM. Moving on, what's next?
You putting me on the hot seat. I've got something for you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, some guy on Twitter says, should I read it out loud?
Sure, if you must.
I must. I thought this is funny for a few reasons, but personally, I felt that was very on brand with the way you tackled it.
Appreciate it.
Which made it even more amazing. But somebody tweets who Cody and I have never met or spoken to. I've heard of him, but it was just, wait, your mom is the founder of a very successful beauty brand, and that's why you're CMO. Cody quote tweets it and says, is this called the
so
subtweet?
He didn't tag me at all. Didn't,
Is this called the subtweet? And then there were about 57 or 37 responses being like, what the hell is this? Anyone that's worked alongside Cody, and he doesn't love praise, but anyone that's worked alongside Cody knows he's a genius marketer. But I thought that, I've learned, and I said this on Twitter, but I've learned more in the last 7 months than I've learned in the rest of my career when it comes to marketing. What I liked about this tweet is, I know somebody mentioned it, is like, the tweet was so nasty and hurtful. But I thought it, somebody said like, shockingly, this tweet brought more positivity than they imagined, which was super cool. And I don't know, I feel like D2C Twitter needs to be kind of unplugged and plugged back in.
I know,
the last couple of weeks.
Funny. That was so funny.
It's been
unplugging it. Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I don't want to go too much into it. I think definitely it's something I'm sensitive to and about, and probably never not going to be something that is on my mind. But I think both things can be true. That I wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for, the situation, but it also doesn't mean that I'm not deserving and not, worthy of it. And, the funny thing is, and I don't like to, talk myself up or something like that, but like I took a week off for paternity and like revenue dropped like 40%. Like yes. No doubt about it in my mind, like we would be half of the size without me, like if it was just kind of how things were ran before.
I fully agree. Yeah,
and I don't think there's anybody, and like this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm literally going to get out of this because this feels like I need a shower after doing this to myself. But I think if you've worked, like it's not bugging me that much because I know it's not true. I know both things can be true. So I was considering printing the tweet out and framing it and putting it in my office right up here somewhere. But I'm just like, I don't know if that's what I want my motivation to be.
Yeah.
I don't
some guy on Twitter that you've never
that I've never met
engaged with in your life. Yeah.
I really appreciate everybody's support, everyone who kind of reached out, whether I was on Twitter or, privately, and had nice things to say. So that definitely helped. But the reason I wanted you to bring this up is because I was thinking about it and I realized that's kind of our secret sauce, is that everybody on our team, we have an extremely young team, very inexperienced team, especially in terms of beauty. Again, for example, I'm 30 years old, haven't been doing this formally nearly as long as other people, but happen to be obsessive about it. So like I woke up yesterday at 4 a.m. because my daughter was up eating and I was working, and I was pretty much working until 10. And I'm not like a big grind guy, but like even at 10 or at like 4 a.m. when I woke up there this morning, like I'm thinking about increasing average order value. I'm thinking about like the hooks for our ads. Like we've just got these hungry people that might not have the most experience, but they're super passionate. They've got, emotional intelligence. Like Eli had never
Chips on the
worked in,
shoulder.
yeah, chips on the shoulder. Eli had never worked in beauty before. The person that he was essentially up against had worked at, CX at a very large beauty fashion company for a decade almost. And on paper, you would have picked that person over Eli 10 times out of 10. And I think it would have been the biggest mistake. If
Yeah.
you look at Joanne, she's amazing. She's incredibly bright, incredibly passionate, takes feedback better than anybody I know. She's 23, 24 years old, um,
Yeah.
has only previous experience was at, a very small beauty brand.
And she's
There's
running
just
a
kind of,
list of a million
yeah,
customers from top
stupid.
to bottom. Yeah.
Our creative director is probably 25 years old. Uh,
People wouldn't believe
pretty
this.
much,
That's why I'm happy we're
pretty
talking
much
about
her
it. People
second
don't believe
job
it.
out of college. No
Yeah.
family association. We've brought in. We thought about hiring fancy schmancy creative directors from beauty, but that wanted tons of money, and they were terrible. We brought in directors of brand marketing that worked for giant car companies. Like we brought in these experienced people, and they sucked. Every single one of them was terrible. They were overpaid. It was their way or the highway. They didn't understand the brand. They didn't understand what was needed. They were too big to actually do any of the work.
Yeah.
We had somebody who was on our marketing team. Pretty, if you looked at her resume, great experience, 8 to 10 years in beauty, very similar positions, great companies. Not that great.
Totally not.
Didn't
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's I don't know. Like we have just hired for a few new roles, and like I think we're finally starting to learn and really add, round out our team and add some great team members, and we're kind of learning. But it's kind of our secret sauce is that what we're learning is like the fit is the most important, the personality, the emotional intelligence, the passion, the humility. You don't have to have that much experience.
Ego, like low ego, meaning like high humility, chip on the shoulder, is like one of the most ridiculous ridiculous dynamic duos to have, and I think we have a lot of that on the team. Like we have a lot of
Yeah.
people that are low ego and excited to learn, and I think your point around like young hungry people, like if any other competitive brand would match up their team to our team,
It's a
it would be a
joke.
joke. It would be a joke. Yeah.
And we're also doing this with like the leanest team imaginable too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, it's wild, that a team that is doing the revenue or like the growth that we've seen, and just, like Joanne being in her early 20s doing, millions in revenue on email and SMS is mind-blowing. And it's like
Definitely.
it's all of it. I think
We don't
it's
have
all
a
of it.
copywriter. Like she's writing a lot of the copy.
Yeah. It's humility, it's hunger, it's passion, and it's a chip on the shoulder. And tweets like that give people like you and myself even more of a fire to be like, fuck this, which is why, yeah.
Yeah, so I just think that's interesting. So I think, yeah, if you don't have, again, both things can be true. Obviously, very privileged. I have never once said that, all of the success that we're having is because of me or even because of our marketing. It's undeniable how having somebody who's very well known, especially at that thing, is going to make it better. But it also doesn't mean it's not automatic. You still have to
It's not
then
out of the gate.
very well. Trust me, because we were not always the size and we were not always growing this fast and doing as well. So it's all super important. It's like if LeBron James didn't practice, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we've got. You have the Michael Jordan and makeup, but like you still have to work as hard as Michael Jordan to be great,
Yep.
and I think that's how we're going about it. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to talk to about it. So I was thinking about it, right? Was listening to Limited Supply with Nick and Moise, and they're talking about Twitter ads and how like no one really has ever. There's just a lot of talk about Twitter ads right now with Elon buying Twitter and them trying to figure out, do they go subscription route? How do they make ads better? Whatever it is. And I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. I'm like, Twitter just is not really a thing for brands,
Right.
Like definitely not ads. You only see them for large brands that really don't care about performance and direct response. But also, like, are there any brands that you are aware of that do a good job organically on Twitter?
No, I mean there are brands that like have a good time on Twitter and like, have funny
Yeah.
tweets and
Yeah.
like we love their I mean like organically, yeah, Wendy's has a good time. Like they're
Yeah.
brand wise, like they do well. I don't think there are
Fine. There
brands
aren't
that like
direct to consumer brands,
right.
really.
No, not that I know of. I mean like there are SaaS companies that have a good time on
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we've seen many SaaS brands do well organically.
Yeah. So my thought is, and I'm probably completely wrong about this. This is probably the worst idea I've ever had, because no one's done it. But it's just kind of my current thought is, if you're in DTC Twitter, you've probably seen a lot of B2B influencer ads on Twitter. Where an influencer does a thread and they shout out a certain thing, and then hopefully they're saying
Hashtag sponsored.
ad or hashtag sponsored or hashtag company partner. And I was thinking, why don't we do that why don't brands do it? Because first of all, it's very trackable. Most of it is click based. You know what I mean? Twitter works for that. It's not like TikTok where like there's no way to really
Right.
put a link in and you get dinged in the algorithm for saying link in bio. So it's very trackable, but it also has virality potential.
Yeah.
You get a good tweet and it can just take off and get a ton of impressions. So also
Like how
thinking about it,
many impressions though? Like I know I did one a couple of weeks ago and I had like 80,000 impressions on a tweet that they paid like I don't know, under $2,000 for, right? And that's pretty amazing, right?
yeah, that's what I mean. That, and then you get a certain amount of clicks from it that you can track. Also, you go to an Instagram influencer, TikTok, YouTube. There's a lot of competition. A lot of brands are doing that, so they're competing for the same eyeballs, brings the CPMS up. No brands are doing this. CPMS are probably really cheap on Twitter. Maybe not for SaaS, for B2B SaaS. There's competition, but for consumer. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's interesting when I think about the success of B2B SaaS companies, like most of them that are doing these threads are like, their average customer LTV is like $5,000 to $35,000. So if a brand gets one customer,
Sure.
like some of them that I've done, they charge like 10, 12,000 and they, from my thread or even 2, 3,000 from my thread, they get like 20 demos and 6 leads and it turns into 3 paid customers.
Yeah.
It's already like more than paid
Yeah.
for versus like if I did a thread about like Cometeer or I don't know, Mad Happy and they get 2 customers from it.
You know who does this?
It's $100.
It's probably more affiliate based. Athletics Greens does it. I've definitely seen.
Oh, really?
A lot of Athletic Greens affiliate links. I'm sure it's probably some of it is paid, but they're also at like a $2,000 AOV.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be $2,000 AOV or LTV.
I'm just assuming AOV. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably more. That thing is not cheap.
Yeah.
But it kind of proves your point a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's just like as viral as you go, I think you need more clicks on a D2C brand than you'll need in SaaS. I think that's why like SaaS
but the CPMs are less, right? The CPMs are less because there's no other brands competing.
Yeah.
Especially if
who's going to try it out
for that virality. Well, so let me just kind of validate this a little bit more. The audience has to be there, right? Normally you go to a beauty influence, like beauty is usually going to be on Instagram. Like, are there even people that talk about beauty on Twitter? Like, is that a thing?
I've not seen a ton, like compared to the amount of like mentions we get on Instagram with like photos.
So it depends.
Not much on Twitter.
It depends for the brand, right?
Uh-huh.
I think because what you're trying to do with this stuff is you're trying to buy the audience.
Yeah.
Right. Like 8 Sleep is a good one, right? They partner with like Pomp and Joe Pompidano, and they partner with Andrew Huberman, you know?
Right.
So I think if you have something that's a little bit general, that works, you know? I think then you can kind of, you know, fuck around and do a thread on it and have it be a sponsored thing. But I think a lot of things that are a little bit more like a visual medium, I think that would probably struggle a little bit more on Twitter. But I don't know. I'm open to it. I'm considering it. I kind of want to try it out. I'm probably gonna be wrong, but what's the harm in trying it?
I feel like it would be cool. I feel like it would be cool if it worked.
It's probably not gonna work. We'll test. This will be a test of the week. We'll come back in a few weeks and probably tell you it failed. But would love to hear people's feedback if they have any ideas. If they think this is the dumbest thing they've ever heard.
And if you want to get sponsored, if you want to get sponsored by Cody to tweet a thread about why Jones Road mascara,
yeah, if you have followers and want to do that, we will gladly test and pay. But yeah, so if you two calls to action, DM me, reach out to Eli and I. If you actually have followers and want to try this out, I'm totally willing to try it. We can do an affiliate link. We can do paid up front, however you want to do it. But if you think I'm stupid and this is a stupid idea, join that guy Patrick and start subtweeting me away. I need the motivation.
Oh my God. Okay, I think we've hit it for this week. Okay, next week, AOV, and what was the other thing? I don't even remember. Oh, hacks, optimizations. Can you over-optimize?
That's fair, because that actually really fits in with AOV really well.
Yep.
Because a lot of AOV stuff is optimizing, so that's perfect.
Okay.
That'll be an exciting one.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.